Okay, people. So it is, before I turn on the computer, I took a nap for this, people. It's going on 10 o'clock. Sorry, 10 to 9 p.m. I don't have a particular shift. Okay? So anyway, I took a nap for this because for the last 2 days, I guess you could say, I did this. I went back into my old videos and, like I said, just jogged my memory a bit. I wrote out quite a few pages. Don't ask me why I do this, but I do. So anyway, I'm going to start with page 1, and I'm going to pick up where what I'm making reference to in here. I'm going to put it on my notice of claim, which is, I think, about 12 pages long right now. Something like that. So I figure what I wrote there will probably take up maybe 2 pages, right? So we're going to be pushing on 14. Now, mind you, the legal basis and the relief sought, I'm not typing those in, people. I made reference to what's already been typed in Uncle John's lawsuits, right? The thing about the legal basis, though, is some of those sections can be like 68 pages long. But that's because I took the Criminal Code of Canada, I listed those sections, and then I actually wrote the sections out word for word per section, and that's what bulked up the paperwork, right? And that was for easy reading, stay on track, get to the point, and move on to the next subject or next section, versus having to go into the book, look in the book, take 10 minutes to do that, and then try and get back to where you were. It was just more for that purpose for me, and I thought I was helping the judge, but who knows? They don't like it like that. But I'm not rewriting any of that out, people. I just can't. It's hard enough for me to come in here and just do this. Like, I get so lonely. When I do stuff like this, I get so lonely. When I used to sit in here for Uncle John, I'd be in here for 12, 14 hours straight. Kids would come up in here and stand here and talk to me. Shmay used to come up all the time, talk to me. Right? I'd be in here for so long, I couldn't get up off the chair. Okay? My feet, everything was sore. My legs, stiff like an old person, right? And I'm even more lonely, right? Because I really miss my daughter. I know Uncle John is with me, right? But Shmay died too young, right? So now I am going to do that, and then tomorrow, so tonight I'm going to type this out and see how long that takes. Shouldn't take that long. And then maybe go through some of those papers. This stuff here, I'm going to sort out and photocopy tomorrow and have a copy for this lawyer. I think the way I'm going to do this is I have this briefcase that has a whole bunch of non-profit stuff in it, and I think I'm going to take everything out. And at one time I gave this briefcase to the board director, but I don't think he really looked much at the papers. But besides that point, it's a really nice briefcase, and it's quite thick, right? You can get a lot in there. And I'm going to put those photocopies in a binder with a few things from Shmay's medical files, just a few things, not a lot. And then the information for CIBC Bank. They did actually send me something in July. See, that's why it's good to do videos. July 22nd of 2018, CIBC Bank served me, I guess. They sent me something in the mail where they want me to bring in my documents. They have their documents, and I haven't been back with my documents, in part, people, because I know what they're trying to do. One, they're just trying to, sugarcoat or just focus on one particular thing without looking at the whole notice of claim in terms of all the broken laws that they broke on a provincial level and on a federal level within legislation and the Criminal Code of Canada, right? They're just taking the Power of Attorney Act and they've tweaked it so much that when they come in with their so-called official lawyer, right, the one that, cut the deal, right, the judge is just going to run with it, okay? They're not even going to acknowledge anything else in that notice of claim, right? And of course, the judge will tell me that if I don't settle, if you don't settle, Miss Torney, there's going to be consequences. You could be contempt of court. You could be fined $100,000. And then he'll go back and he'll raise the $100,000 when nobody's looking, and he'll put $500,000 in there and falsify his own transcript, so that when I get a copy, what I thought was $100,000 is now $500,000, because these guys are crooked, right? They've already falsified their records once on me. Why wouldn't they do it again? All right. If CIBC Bank really wanted to settle the matter, right, they would acknowledge everything else that's in the lawsuit. And going in by myself at this point, people, with that, in July of 2018, I just would have been bamboozled. So I just, I've been busy, right, looking after a disabled child, right, being gang stalked, right, for the longest time there. And then, having to wrap my head around this stuff. So anyway, I'm in here now. Like I said, I had a nap. So there's no reason for me not to be in here for the next 4, 5, 6 hours. Absolutely none. And if I can get the majority of the typing done, right, then that will be good, because tomorrow I'll photocopy what needs to be photocopied. Right? Like I'll look for those papers from July of 2018 with CIBC Bank, and I'll photocopy those, and I'll put those in there with my my amended notice of claim, because I amended that one, right, when I gave them something. So they got a copy of it being amended, and that's only 19 pages or whatever, minus legal basis and relief sought, right? That's where I throw in that boomerang, simply because I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not, people. I'm not going to sit there and pretend I can write something without any direction. And the whole time I've been doing this crap, beginning with Uncle John, I've never had no direction in terms of how to write a notice of claim outside of what I could read in a book, or maybe find on the internet. And even then, on the internet, you don't necessarily find how to, write a notice of claim. So you have to piecemeal it together, So I'm not piecemealing. I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not, right? It's all the same. It's all applicable. It's just compounding. That's all it's doing. But if you notice, I'm the one that's going to be threatened to be having to pay for fucking government lawyers. Okay. Right. So, anyway, let me get on it. I'm going to make myself a tea, and then I'm just going to type, and then I'll touch base after I go through these 10 pages, and I'll let you know how I'm thinking. Okay. I'm so tired. I don't know what the hell, man. I don't know why I'm so tired. Right? When you get old, right? You don't think you're getting old. right? You don't want to get old. Not that you don't want to get old. You don't think you're getting old. You just feel like you're getting old. Like, I'm almost pushing 60, so... right? I got a little sidetracked there with the Mari. I had to help him do his little doo-doo there. So, by the time I was done that and everything else, it was an hour and a half. It doesn't take long for me to get tired. Anyway, I am sitting here and I am typing this out, people. I'm on page 2. See? And then you see how I draw a line? Right? So I'm just kind of going through this, trying to go through it fast, but, you know. Anyway, I'm at the point here where I'm arguing with the coroner on May 16th of 2018, right? Because, you know, they were closing her file, right? They first it was supposed to be an accident, or sorry, a suicide, right? Cop came, oh, it's a suicide, and then Tisha had her fit. I can't pinpoint the date on that one, people, because one is either written on a piece of paper, the date, right? But what had happened was I had recorded it on a little recorder, and the cop, Constable Booth, he seen me, right? So, you know, I'm going to record mine, and I'm like, whatever. So we both recorded the conversation, but here's the problem. I gave the little cassette player to somebody that came to my house that actually worked for a lawyer and can type out fucking transcripts, and she can't find the tape recorder, people. Like, oh, I'm so annoyed with it, right? I've been waiting, and I said, Tisha, look, just go ask her if, you know, maybe her son broke it, right? And she just didn't want to tell me that it's actually broken. Versus, you know, like, if it's broken, just tell me, and fuck, I'll get on with my life. But apparently, no, she still can't find it. There was one person who came into her house one time. She's thinking maybe they took it. She asked if they had a tape recorder, if they had found one, took it. And, you know, they offered her a tape recorder, but didn't say it was something that they had taken from her house. And anyway, long story short, you know, the cop came to the house and tried to pull that fast one. First it was a suicide, then it went to the accident, and then of course the coroner ended up calling me, right, and asking me, you know, what the hell was going on, as if the coroner wouldn't fucking know. Of course the coroner would know, right? And it said she was closing the file too, because the cops closed the file. She wanted to confirm that with me. This was May, what, 16th of 2019, 2019, right? When this phone call came in. And, arguing with me, right? And she stated that in the autopsy report, it showed no bruising on Shimei's head, right? Because I've always, from the very beginning, you know, look for bruising, right? You know, whatever, right? And, you know, I want an autopsy, see if she had brain trauma, right? And she said there was no bruising, no trauma, but with the videos that I've done with her on that hospital bed, you know, it's pretty clear to see that there was something going on in there. And I typed out this one sentence because they just tested her blood, people. They didn't test urine. There was no urine to test, okay? It was all over the futon, and that's the thing. She defecated and she urinated. And I told this to the coroner, right, on this conversation that we were having, because we were arguing back and forth because she just wanted to close the file, and I'm like, you can't, you know, she died under, you can't trust the cops, right? They're not doing their job, they're covering it up. You know, she died sitting up, she urinated, she defecated, right? You know, blah, blah, where did you get the blood from? You know, I mean, where did you get the fluid samples from? And it turned out it was just her blood. It wasn't even urine. And like in my travels through reading, like it's so disturbing, and that's why I turned on the camera, because it's so disturbing, because not everybody defecates and urinates when they die, and it happens more so when something traumatic happens, you know. So like all I can just envision is her being attacked, people, from behind, because he snuck up on her from behind and just fucking wailed on her and did something, choked her, who knows. You're never going to get the truth from these people, though, that are supposed to figure this shit out as they come into contact with these dead bodies. And they're not interested in finding out how they died. The more that die, the happier and the more merrier they become, because it's more fucking organs and body parts to pick and choose from. And I'm telling myself, like, this is so important, you have to do this. Like, I don't want to do this, people. But I tell myself this is so important, you know. Right now, what you're at the tail end of it. It's so important that you write down how these people pass the buck. You know, if she wasn't passing the buck on to the police, she was passing the buck on to the freaking doctors, right? As she bold-faced ignored, you know, very serious concerns from me, right? And because I'm a nobody, she just thought she could play it off as nothing, people, as nothing. And then, you know, give me okie dokie. Well, there is no bruising. Well, if there is no bruising, you know, what is all this up in here? To me, it looks like a bruise. And it comes out through different exposures, you know, because it's a bruise. It's right in the skin itself. And because she did defecate and she did urinate, people, that kind of leans towards that she was attacked. Okay? Right? It wasn't just simply get some fentanyl and go to sleep. Okay? There was something happened. And this is where it gets hard for me to sit and write, because I play it in my mind, you know? And it just makes me want to scream. Okay, so it's the next day. I ended up going to sleep, people. Serious. I was on page 4. On page 4, you can see I'm running lines through it. See? And I'm just trying to piece it in. I don't know. I know this is important, but when I come across things that I just said, you know, and I'm sitting here and it's like 2, 3 in the morning, I'm by myself or whatever it is. I think I went to sleep at 2, something like that. I maybe 1. I just didn't have it in me. I just go to sleep, get up, and just get right back at it. So I'm pretty much doing that. I checked in with the petition. There's 150 signatures. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. My family appreciates it. My grandchildren appreciate it. Auntie Shimei appreciates it. Uncle John appreciates it. Right? And friends to the family appreciate it. Right? So, I'm like, in my head, do you really want to... Oh, I don't know where I put those things now. Andrew the Dragon's binders. Right? Do you really want to name 7 defendants? That's a lot of binders. I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, where are you going to get the money to pay for that? Right? Wondering if maybe you can scan each and every page and put it on a flash drive and do it that way, but I don't know. You don't want to water it down, because if you water it down, that's what the court was doing. It was watering it down. And it defeats the whole purpose. Right? So, today's the 18th. 16th? 16th? 17th? Something like that. I think it's the 16th. For some reason, my head's saying the 18th. So, I'm just going to work on this. And then I'm going to do some photocopying and that type of thing. And punch holes. Either put them in plastic sheets. The YouTube stuff I'll just punch holes for. And put them all in a binder. Hand over those Andrew's binder, right, with his little miscellaneous stuff. So the lawyer can look at that. If the lawyer doesn't want to take on the case, then he can give everything back to me because I'm going to need it, right? So I'll be back. Hold on. Okay, just to give you an example of what I'm writing here and why it's important. And, like, even as I sit here and I write this, people, like, I don't understand why it has to be me. Right? Like, I shouldn't have to live my life thinking about the things that I'm thinking about and writing about the things that I'm writing about when I should be making children's clothes for my grandchildren. Okay? But just to give you an example, I'm going to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sentences, like 9 individual thoughts, because you have to break up everything into 1, 2, 3, 4. I just haven't added the numbers yet. That will be the last thing that I do. Last time I used the numbers, and this time I'm just writing the thoughts down or whatever it is, and then I'm going to number them, and then that will be it. But we'll just start with this. Now, the person's name is here, right? Only because you can't keep saying coroner, the coroner, the coroner, the coroner, the coroner, the coroner, especially if you have a name here and a name there, I would think. Right? And my name is in there, Shimei's name is in there, Uncle John's name is in there. You know, there's other names that are in there. So in this case, versus just referring to the coroner for this particular conversation as the coroner, her name is, assuming that she's still alive, Jacqueline Cooch. Okay. So, anyway, Jacqueline Cooch told the plaintiff that it was the doctor who pronounced Shimei Chorney dead in the hospital on April 16th, 2018. And you have to keep in mind, I'm arguing back and forth, well, debating, petty argument, you know, bickering, right? You know, that kind of shit with the coroner, right? Because she doesn't want to acknowledge what I'm saying. She's just phoning me to tell me that the case is closed and that Shimei died by accident, okay? And that was it. And I'm like, hold on a minute. So anyway, the plaintiff was informed by Jacqueline Cooch that Shimei Chorney died from a level of therapeutic fentanyl in her system as if Shimei Chorney had been monitored in a hospital setting. That's exactly what she told me. Jacqueline Cooch had no concerns that Shimei Chorney had urinated and defecated while sitting up at the time of her death, and that Shimei Chorney's body had been moved into a laying down position and left for 50 minutes until Julian Johnson drew attention to the dead body. Okay? That's a fact, people. Okay? She showed no concern. I'm trying to think if there's a different way I could write it. You know, I tried to put, you know, but it's, you have to be careful how you say, right? She showed no concern because she was argumentative with me. She was bickering with me. She was counteracting what I was saying. She was playing dumb. Well, what do you mean by embalming? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by embalming? So anyway, she ignored that. But, you know, as I'm sitting here at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I think what I'm going to do to keep this video not too long is after I'm done this little interlude here, I'm just going to upload it because otherwise they get real long. Because I got to focus on this, or I don't know what I'm going to do. So anyway, the fact that she urinated and defecated, you know, and through my reading, you know, it's people who do that under trauma, right? And with the bruise being on Shimei's head, with the coroner ignoring that, saying no, there was no head trauma to be found, right? It just upsets me. And that's why I went to sleep last night. Jacqueline Cooch informed the plaintiff that test results came back. Jacqueline Cooch informed the plaintiff that test results came from Shimei Chorney's blood and not from her urine. Right? Because I asked her about the urine. Where did the urine come from? Yeah, she defecated and she urinated when she was sitting up. And then her body was moved. What you going to do about that? You know, cops are covering it up. They don't care. Right? It goes deeper than that, you know? And she's just bickering back and forth with me. Okay? Anyway, it was also stated by the coroner. See, in this case, I wrote coroner. But you don't want coroner through the whole thing. Right? That Shimei Chorney had no head trauma. Because that was one of the first things I went in on the first day I went in. At the first moment. It was first she looked like she was embalmed. Second was, let's find out what are all these poke marks and leaking and all this shit. And then it was, look for, you know, areas where in between the finger where she could have been injected, or, you know, was she hit on the head, that kind of stuff, right? Because by this time, I was hyped, people. I mean, obviously at 10 o'clock in the morning when I came downstairs and seen her laying on the couch like that, you know, gray as death, right? With bubbles and shit coming out of her nose and her nostrils, you know, I'm not going to be on the ball, right? But by the time I came in at 9 and I seen her, like, the differentiate in terms of change was too extreme. Was way too extreme. And, you know, and even when you call the professional on it, hold on a minute, this conversation isn't over yet. You know, my daughter was embalmed. She was illegally embalmed in the hospital. You as a coroner, what are you going to do about that? And this woman was just bickering with me. Well, what do you mean by embalmed? Well, you know, you're the coroner, right? You know what that word means. You went to school for that. I don't have to educate you on how to embalm a body or what it entails in terms of formaldehyde. You know, like going around in fucking circles because they can simply stand there and put up this big wall, right? The Trump wall, you know. That was a side joke. But, you know, they can put up this big fucking wall and you can't penetrate it. Even if what you're saying is true, you can't penetrate it because you're not the one with the resources. You're not the one with the fucking staff in the freaking office. You're not the one with thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars that you can, you know, play with paper with, right? And computers and, you know, photocopying machines and just the whole 9 yards, right? And the staff to help you to organize this wall, right? To prevent you from getting that person that's this wall to acknowledge that Shimei was embalmed. You know? You would think that it would be her job to say, hold on a minute. If what you're telling me is true, right? You're confiding into me as a public servant. I confided into her as a public servant. Whether I did it with an attitude in terms of I was a little hostile because she was arguing with me, so of course I'm going to argue back. But as a professional that's there to protect the public, right? And to investigate murder and all this other shit for the benefit of the public, right? You would think that she'd be like, okay, you're telling me that the police are covering up the fact that your daughter was embalmed because you believe that your daughter's organs must have been illegally harvested based on the fact that they went as far as to embalm the body on the day it arrived at the hospital, people. It wasn't even 24 hours later. It was like 7 hours later. Okay? She was in the hospital for 7 hours. And they embalmed her body, okay? That can be proven. At the time when I spoke to the coroner, of course not. Because she's got that big wall there that you can't penetrate to prove that. And she knows it. So she's going to do one of two things. She's either going to become culpable to the situation in terms of she in part is responsible for what happened to Shimei because she wasn't even interested in investigating what I was alleging when it came to the illegal embalming of my daughter. It was enough that I was alleging that she had been murdered. They ignored that one. They played it off like it was an accident or a suicide. And then when I came back and said, okay, she's illegally embalmed now, what are you going to do? I said, what are you going to do about that? Well, nothing. That's for the police. What do you mean by embalming? Well, you know what the word embalm means. I'm bickering because it's the wall that you can't penetrate, right? So I don't feel no sympathy for what I'm doing, although I don't like doing what I'm doing because it puts my life at risk, people. Once I file this and it goes through the grapevine that this woman's name has been called out, right? Because she chose to ignore what what a citizen had to say. And being in a position of power, it was her duty under the Criminal Code of Canada, okay? I don't know what section, but it was her duty to investigate my claims based on the severity of it, people. Now, I don't have time to sit here and hunker it right down to the, nitty-gritty in terms of exactly what section, because there's already enough sections in there that I've written that have been broken by the public union sector who continue to put up this fucking wall that you can't penetrate because they can simply stand there and bicker with you and then hang up the phone. Or just like Constable Booth, just walk out the door and say, oh, well, that's it, done. But if you get some more information, sure, bring it to me. Well, the case is either open or is fucking closed. Right? It took me 2 weeks to chase you down initially. And then when you did come to my house, you kind of insulted us because, everything wasn't exactly where it was on the day she died, even though we're going into the 4th week now. All the evidence that should have been collected is gone. And if anything got destroyed, it wasn't because of me. It was because of them, because they didn't call her death correctly. She should have been pronounced dead. My house should have been taped off. The coroner should have came, and the coroner should have done her job. And then God gave the coroner a second chance to do her job. And when I came and said, look, it's not over yet, my daughter was embalmed, what did the coroner do? She kept the wall up with her fucking co-workers, right? Because they're all in the office. They're the ones spending taxpayers' dollars to keep the fucking wall up. Right? And ignored it. Completely ignored it. Showed no concern. Just wanted to bicker. That's it. First you blame the cops. Oh, it was the cops' place to investigate. Oh, then it was the doctor. Well, the doctor was the one who pronounced her dead on the 16th, regardless of whether he pronounced her dead on the 16th. That's besides the point. The point is, she was illegally embalmed. What are you going to do about that? Click. Do you see how easy that was? She just hung up the phone. I don't know what these lawyers are going to do with this, people, outside of try and throw it out of court, because those lawyers are the same ones with this woman holding up that fucking wall. Okay? As I sit here and get disturbed thinking that my daughter was whacked on the head before she was fucking hot-capped, and obviously, because it's not documented on their end that she has head trauma, that tells me they're trying to cover it up, because on my end, I have proof that she was hit on the head. Something did injure her head. The only other thing that could possibly create this that's in her pictures while on that bed under different exposures is when they fucking did their autopsy on her, okay? When they embalmed her. Before they embalmed her, they took out something, so I'm going to go as far as they took out her fucking genius brain. Because they wanted to study it. They wanted to give it to the fucking students so they could dissect it, okay? They did something with my daughter's brain. So before they do that, you know, they have to cut all up in here, take the scalp, pull it down, you know, take off the skull cap, do this, do that, take out the fucking brain, blah, 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 put everything back and pull back the fucking scalp. That's the only other thing, people, that I could possibly think which would cause this. But because it seems to be isolated to pretty much one area, you know, it just kind of just reminds me of a bruise. A bruise that they were trying to fucking cover up. Okay, and just with the fact that Shimei did defecate and urinate while sitting up, okay, you know, that tells me that there was some more than likely shock. There's a higher probability for that type of, you know, release, right, of these things that come out of our body when we die, is more apt to occur under shock. A hit is a shock. Is a shock, okay? As soon as the body tenses up, it's a shock. And then you die and everything goes, right? And then her body was moved. And then it was left there 50 minutes. Told this to the coroner, and the coroner fucking kept the wall up and just wanted to bicker and then say, oh, well, I don't know anything about that. It was the doctor who pronounced her dead. It was also stated by the coroner that Shimei Chorny had no head trauma, although the plaintiff has documentation to prove otherwise. Jacqueline Cooch had no concerns that the plaintiff alleged that Shimei Chorny had been illegally embalmed at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, and Jacqueline Cooch continued to argue with the plaintiff through the duration of the phone call. Okay, this was when? May of 2019? Where am I at? I'm in March of 2020, people. Jacqueline Cooch had no concern that the plaintiff alleged that Shimei Chorny's organs had been illegally harvested at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, and she refused to answer the plaintiff when asked what she would do about, sorry, let me read that again. Jacqueline Cooch had no concerns that the plaintiff alleged that Shimei Chorny's organs had been illegally harvested at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, and refused to answer the plaintiff when asked what she would do as a coroner about that. The plaintiff alleges that the coroner showed no interest to make inquiries or otherwise investigate the claims of Shimei Chorny's body being embalmed illegally. She showed absolutely no interest, people. None. It is alleged by the plaintiff that the RCMP covered up criminal activity from Fraser Health Authority staff, and that the coroner's office covered up criminal activity that was acted out from the RCMP staff. That's where I'm at right now on page 4. But I've got about 13 and a half pages written so far. And I have to pick up where I left off, thinking about my daughter being whacked on the head as I'm dealing with shit like this, right? Wondering if I should be calling in 7 lawyers so I can go off and photocopy Andrew's binders as evidence and give it to each lawyer. I'm thinking in my head how much that's going to cost. Right? Trying not to worry. Yeah. I'm like, just listen. This is what I wrote, okay? And I'm going to write this one in. Because here's that wall again, right? Coroner insisted the doctor was right because she was arguing with me, people, right? In his assessment as to when Shimei died. Well, it's already been determined that Shimei's been listed down in their files 3 separate occasions, where in fact she died at home on April 11th at around 9 a.m., right? Which is her official death. So that's 4 different times. But here the coroner is saying, right? Coroner insisted the doctor was right in his assessment as to when Shimei died and did not want to acknowledge that the doctor would lie about Shimei's death if what the plaintiff was alleging to be true. Of course the doctor's going to stick with the narrative. They're not going to say she died on the 1st. Because on the 1st they were too busy taking out her organs, people. And then going into midnight onto the 2nd day, it was all a charade from that point forward to convince the family and friends who were coming in at that time that she was alive, and therefore that justified them getting fucking payment to keep her on their machines. And it wasn't that she was alive and they were trying to keep her alive. It was the fact that if they would have pronounced her dead, I would have said, okay, she's dead, let's donate her organs. And they didn't want that to happen, people, because those organs had already been bought on the black market. Right? And they're sure in the hell not going to, what do you call that? Take out her organs, and, take out her organs and then pronounce her dead so I can donate her organs so the organ donation center can come and find an organless body. Right? They had to steer away from all that. The only way to steer away from that shit was to drag it out and hope that I would pipe down. That's why they didn't give me the investigation initially. What really got that investigation started, people, was the fact that I took the fucking shit that I found in this house that the cops should have found, and I took it to the safe and Jackson site, and I had it tested there, what I could. And because those workers got nervous, right, they called up the police, but because the police couldn't go into the injection site because of some rule that they have to not stress out the addicts, right, then I was told to cross over and go take it, whatever I had left, to the police department and start it there. Even though I had already called on several occasions the police department itself for them to start an investigation, and I was waiting for somebody to call me back and make it official. And then when I showed up at the cop station with what I had left, the cop sat up there and said, well, why didn't you, you ruined the evidence by taking it to the safe injection site. And I reminded the cop, well, it's not like you guys came to the house to pick up anything. It's been sitting in a bag for almost 2 weeks, right? A week or whatever it was. I wanted to know where the fentanyl came from. But that was taken out on the day she died because the cops didn't do their job. So for a coroner to, again, put up that wall where, the doctor said she died, and therefore that makes it correct. And no matter what you say, Miss Chorney, you'll never be right. You'll always be wrong because, we've got this wall up that you can't penetrate with the truth. Because we don't want to acknowledge that Shimei had no organs. Because they were taken out illegally, basically. So I'm gonna write that in there, that one, because it's mindfuckery. A lot of it is mindfuckery, and it's like they take a mirror, and I don't have a mirror in here, I don't think, right? But it's like they take a mirror and they reflect it back at you. They reflect it back at you, right? So that reality becomes distorted. Right? And because it's so distorted and twisted, it's just another means of psychological warfare to make you doubt yourself and question yourself and all this other shit, right? Wear you down, right? Right? For them to sit up there and say she had no head trauma, where I can say she did, right? And then realize that head trauma probably played a role in her urinating and defecating as the professionals that went to school for this kind of stuff and are paid to, find the truth, right? And to protect the public in general. They're just not doing it, people. They're not doing it. They're hiding between doctors. They're hiding between themselves. The doctor, the RCMP, right? The coroner, each one passes on responsibility to another one where nobody becomes responsible, as everything is being mirrored back to you in a distorted, grotesque sense, so that it keeps whatever it is that these people do insulated, right? From being held accountable, people. Anyway, I'm going to go upload this now because, this is how I end up wasting my day, right? Because, I'm getting upset. Okay, I should write this down. This is on page 5. Plaintiff alleges that the BC Coroner Office is just one part of a bigger network that has a criminal element to it for the purpose to harvest organs en masse, with many of those organs being unaccounted for because they were sold on the black market for profit. Okay, as soon as I write that little thing there with the doctor shit, I need to write that there, right underneath it. And I should throw in a section under the Criminal Code of Canada with conspiracy underneath that next sentence. That's distorted, people. This is something that you write in a novel, right? For entertainment, okay? You shouldn't have to be writing this kind of stuff in a modern day society. No. That's where it becomes distorted. It's worse than being in Alice in Wonderland, right? It's completely on a different fucking plateau.